So good to have you join us today. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Ji-yoon in Seoul. But first, let's get a quick check of today's highlights. Korea's central bank raises its growth outlook for this year to 3%, citing improving exports and a recovering global economy. Ahead of U.S. President Donald Trump's first Asia visit, we take a look at what economic and trade issues will be topping the agenda and what changes we can expect in trade relations between the U.S. and Korea. These stories and more coming right up. The Bank of Korea raised the country's annual growth forecast for the third time this year to 3%, citing improvements in exports and domestic consumption. The BOK, however, took a wait-and-see approach in raising its benchmark interest rate in consideration of external factors. Our Kim Ji-yeon starts us off.
The Bank of Korea raised this year's annual growth forecast for the Korean economy to 3%, up from the previous forecast of 2.8%. The central bank took into account improving domestic consumption and increased IT facility investment. It also projects Asia's fourth largest economy to grow 2.9% next year.
Up until now, we've thought domestic consumption wasn't recovering fast enough, as facility investment remained sluggish in July and August, as it underwent inventory adjustments. However, after further monitoring, we've discovered it has gained momentum in September due to increased investments in the IT sector.
The BOK also held its benchmark interest rate steady for the 16th consecutive month at a record low of 1.25%. The central bank says it will take a wait-and-see approach as it monitors external factors to determine whether the local economy could withstand a rate hike. Pressure is growing on the BOK amid high expectations the U.S. Federal Reserve will raise rates yet again in December. However, central bank officials believe a rate hike would severely affect homeowners' ability to repay their debt and raise the risk of defaulting on their mortgage loans. An assessment of government measures to curb Korea's household debt of $1.2 trillion are due to be unveiled later this month, and they're expected to play a key role in determining the timing of the next rate hike. Although there have been no additional provocations from North Korea since the Chuseok holiday period earlier this month, and South Korea's benchmark Kospi continues to hit fresh highs, it's still considered too soon to regard such threats as transitory. Kim Ji-yeon, Business Daily.
Meanwhile, China's GDP growth rate fell just under 7% during the third quarter of this year, on par with most expectations. China's National Bureau of Statistics said the country's economy grew 6.8% on year in the July to September period. The figure is slightly lower than China's first and second quarter growth rate of 6.9%. Experts had expected a slight downturn in growth amid China's effort to cool down the country's overheating property market. The U.S. Federal Reserve is holding an optimistic view of the U.S. economy as it prepares to raise interest rates by the end of this year. In its latest Beige Book survey on current economic conditions, the Fed expects the U.S. economy to continue growing moderately, with inflation expected to rebound as well. The central bank also said the recent hurricanes that struck the U.S. will only have a limited and temporary effect on third quarter growth. However, the latest snapshot of the U.S. economy showed few signs of inflation picking up, a source of long-running concern for the U.S. Central Bank. Time now for a check on how local equities fared here today. For that, we have our Eunice Kim on the phone with us with more on today's market action. Eunice.
June, it was a seesaw day of trading on this Thursday. The benchmark Kospi got off to a flying start, spiking to a fresh intraday high within the first 10 minutes of trade, eclipsing the 2490 mark for the first time. The upswing wouldn't last. It soon dipped into negative territory, then jumped back to black momentarily before posting even deeper losses in the afternoon hours as institutional, retail, and foreign investors all unloaded shares. At the closing bell, it was down 0.4%, ending the day at 24.73. The tech-heavy Kosdaq, which also saw a roller coaster day, wrapped 0.2% lower. The Korean won further weakened to 1132.41 to the greenback. Now, large-cap stocks dove noticeably today. Market bellwethers Samsung Electronics ended down 3.25%. SK Hynix fell 2.35%, while Celltrion, a gainer earlier in the week, plummeted by over 8.8%.
Now, over in Wall Street, the rally there is showing no signs of slowing down.
Indeed, the Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P all extended their streak of record closes. Notably, the Dow closed above 23,000 for the first time, buoyed by IBM. The blue chip stock rocketed by 8.9% Wednesday after it impressed investors with its best Q3 earnings forecast in nearly 9 years. The U.S. tech giant had been dogged by 22 consecutive quarters of falling revenue. This has been Eunice Kim for Business Daily.
Amid talks of potential U.S. import restriction on Korean washers, American media outlets have chosen the Korean products as their best pick. The Sweet Home, a consumer review website, picked an LG Electronics model as their best front-loading washer on Thursday. Another consumer website, CNET, ranked a model from LG in first place in their list of best washing machines of 2017, followed by a model by Swedish firm Electrolux. Meanwhile, a Samsung model was selected as their best budget pick. Local trade experts say the gap between these reviews and the ICT's position on Korean washers could raise questions about violations of consumer choice. U.S. President Donald Trump will embark on his first trip to Asia next month, where he will visit 5 countries in the region, including Korea, China, and Japan. Let's now take a closer look at what may be discussed during his visit in regards to trade relations between the U.S. and Asian economies.
Amid escalating tensions in the region over repeated North Korean provocations, President Trump is set to arrive in Seoul on November 7th, where he will meet with President Moon Jae-in and also address the National Assembly. His visit to Korea is expected to focus mostly on issues related to North Korea, as well as the South Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. It remains to be seen whether issues over a possible renegotiation of the bilateral trade pact will be raised during the summit. Following his visit to Korea, Trump will be heading to Beijing for his second summit meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping following their talks back in April. China's 19th Communist Party Congress is currently underway, where Xi is mapping out the country's future, including potential changes to its economic and foreign policies. Experts say while North Korea will no doubt top the discussions, matters on the economy will also be an important part of Trump's visit to China, especially at a time when Trump is seemingly ramping up trade pressure on Beijing. It remains to be seen if China's retaliations over Seoul's deployment of THAAD will also be addressed during this time.
And to tell us more about this, Professor Shin from Kyunghee University joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
All right, so with U.S. President Donald Trump embarking on his 5 Asian nation tour, now questions are being raised in regards to trade relations between the U.S. and these Asian economies. So tell us more about what we can expect on this front.
Well, as you mentioned, this is the first visit, his first visit to Asian countries after he became the President of the United States. And the second point which I wanted to raise is that the USA has a huge trade deficit in the trade with China, Japan, and Korea. So certainly he will use this opportunity to emphasize the importance of fair and the reciprocal economic ties with these 3 countries. So during his visit, well, considering the North Korean nuclear threats, he cannot emphasize too much, but he would mention about the how to reduce the trade deficit in the trade with these 3 countries.
And also going along with that, considering that Trump has been mentioning about possibly terminating the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, there are concerns being raised that he might mention this issue again during his visit. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, as I said before, we are facing North Korean nuclear crisis. So at the moment, the economic cooperation between Korea and the USA seems to be very, very important. But the considering the comment or the saying which Mr. Trump has made when he was the presidential candidate and after became the president, he has mentioned the importance of the trade deficit cut in the trade with many countries. Korea is not an exception. At the moment, in 2016, we have $27 billion trade surplus in the trade with the USA. So directly or indirectly, Mr. Trump would mention about the need for the renegotiation for the amendment of the Korea-USA FTA. Both sides had already agreed on. So he will talk about this one very briefly during his visit to Korea.
Now, there are also concerns over escalated tensions between China and the U.S. over North Korea and threats. And there are concerns that this could actually spark a trade war between the U.S. and China. So, I mean, do you think when Trump visits China after Korea, do you think he will step up pressure on China?
Maybe, because, you know, depending on the China's the response, I mean, involvement in the UN-mandated economic sanctions against North Korea. As you know very well, Mr. Trump has been pushing China to exert more economic and diplomatic pressures on North Korea. But the Chinese government has said that, has maintained that they will not take actions which endanger the livelihood of North Korean people. So depending on the responses, I mean, China's response to the UN mandate economic sanctions, the American government will decide how much pressure they will give on the Chinese government. The second point which I want to concern about, actually, well, USA had a huge trade deficit as well in the trade with China. As of the end of, I mean, in 2016, they have more than $300 billion trade deficit. So there must be some the saying from Mr. President how to cut the trade deficit with China, but there must be a serious consideration, putting more importance on the economic sanctions against North Korea, because without implementation of China, definitely the UN mandated sanctions could not be very successful. So we can say the USA government will just try to keep the balance in the taking the choices. I mean, the diplomatic pressures or the trade-related pressures on China.
Right. Now, shifting our focus a little bit, Trump has also withdrawn the U.S. from the multilateral Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. So, in light of this, what alternative framework does the Trump administration have in mind in relations to its economic and trade relations with Japan?
Well, yes. I mean, the USA had also a very huge trade deficit in the trade with the Japan. On an annually basis, I mean, they have about $70 billion trade deficit in the trade with Japan. So the trade issue seems to be included on the agenda of the summit meeting between Japan and the United States. But the point which I want to underline is that definitely a few days ago, USA government proposed Japan to have the negotiation for the Japan and USA free trade agreements. So, which means that the withdrawal from the TPP, which is based on multilateralism, they took the FTA talk with the Japan, which is based on bilateralism. That means they want to have the strategies to cut, reduce the trade deficit with Japan by using bilateral-based free trade agreements, not multilateral-based trade agreements.
Now, and of course, many eyes are on China's 19th Party Congress, which is ongoing right now. So what economic policies could be put forth by China that could possibly impact the Korean economy?
Well, the 9th National Congress of the Communist Party of China seems to be very important. Why? Because they will present blueprints for the future 5-year, how to lead the country. And also during this the Congress, they will change the top leadership. You know, China has adopted the collective leadership. Of course, through this Congress, the Chinese President Xi Jinping tried to strengthen its power within the China. But at the same time, by changing some of them among top 7 leaders, by changing the leadership, certainly we can forecast what kind of the policies they will take, and that means then we can analyze, we can expect or forecast what kind of economic policies they will take. And then, as you mentioned before, those policies will directly or indirectly affect Korean economy or the regional economy as a whole. So we have to focus on the changes of leadership, including how the leadership of President Xi Jinping will be changed through this Congress.
So we'll keep a close eye on the People's Congress over in China and also the upcoming Trump's visit to see what kind of changes we can expect in their foreign and economic policies.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
The Seoul Central District Court has upheld a controversial merger of Samsung C&T and JL Industries, ruling it as reasonable in a decision earlier today. The conglomerate had been wrangling with minor shareholders since the consolidation of the two firms in July of 2015. Samsung had been accused of setting a swap ratio that favored the holding company to the detriment of minor stakeholders. Now, the court said it's difficult to say the purpose of the merger was unreasonable just because the company was aiming to strengthen its top leadership. It said it was impossible to prove the swap ratio was unfair, and the final outcome was therefore valid. Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon says the government is not aiming to convert all non-regular workers in the public sector to full-time workers as a way to tackle the country's rising unemployment rate. During a meeting on Thursday, he stressed that the government knew the measures could burden companies financially and was therefore taking a cautious approach. He said the government's plan was to provide hope to irregular employees as they would be able to receive stable wages and better working hours once converted to full-timers. Under the plan, some 200,000 temporary workers in the public sector who are planning to work for the next 2 years or work for more than 9 months out of the year will be switched to full-timers by 2020. Korea's tourism industry has faced many uncertainties in 2017, but the industry can take some comfort in its strong numbers from last year. Government data released today show tourism service providers saw a combined sales growth of 12% last year. Domestic tourism-related firms posted $22 billion in sales, up from $19.7 billion in 2015, thanks to a record number of visitors from abroad. The number of companies and employees in the tourism industry also rose 16% and 11.2% on year, respectively. The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism had given advance warning of the industry's expected decline this year amid Beijing's THAAD retaliations. A 4-day Smart Business Expo is currently underway in Seoul, aimed at helping smaller companies find new business opportunities both here at home and abroad. Our Lee Ju-young tells us more.
Helping Korea's small and mid-sized companies to advance into new markets and strengthen their competitiveness. With this goal in mind, a 4-day expo is being hosted by Samsung Electronics in Seoul, dubbed the Smart Biz Expo. Roughly 150 small firms will have a chance to meet with some 100 local and overseas buyers like Lotte, Amazon, and Alibaba as part of efforts to promote networking and mutual growth. This event is seen as an extension of the tech giant's ambitious plan to introduce a smart factory system to 1,000 SMEs by the end of the year. It has already dispatched around 150 experts to help build smart factories, pass on manufacturing know-hows, and boost work efficiency.
Large firms have a lot of knowledge in manufacturing as well as marketing and distribution. Once we transfer the know-how to SMEs, it will increase their competitiveness, which is likely to contribute to Korea's overall industrial competitiveness.
One such business that's said to have greatly benefited from Samsung's help is Arirang, a household and sanitary goods manufacturer.
First and foremost, production has improved by over 20%. We also don't generate as much dust pollution as we did before, which has greatly improved the working environment. It's had a direct impact on our sales, which we expect to increase by more than 30% in the near future.
The government is set on expanding support for industries to lead the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution that's being anticipated to create an economic windfall worth billions of dollars. Both the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy and the private sector are working together to build smart factories for at least 2,200 SMEs by the end of this year. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
So what does a city of the future look like in the era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution? The answer can be found in Incheon, which has been praised by foreign media as a benchmark in developing a smart city. Incheon is hoping to become a global city by taking advantage of cutting-edge ICT technology and its status as a free economic zone. Take a look.
Streets, parks, and roads in this area are filled with hundreds of monitors. Home to 270,000 residents, Incheon's Songdo district, Cheongna City, and Yeongjong Island cover an area of 120 square kilometers, and these monitors provide real-time information on what's happening in the city. CCTV cameras are operating 24/7 around the city to monitor accidents, disasters, emergencies, and even temperature and humidity, allowing authorities to swiftly respond at any time.
One of our citizens collapsed while working out in the early morning hours in Cheongna City. Our center became aware of the situation right away and dispatched an ambulance and the police to provide assistance.
The entire city is connected with smart city technology, integrated using advanced IT tools.
We're developing our city using smart city technology, and Incheon has been pressing forward with its smart city business venture on a strategic level to promote its brand value, and is now expanding its service.
Incheon's Future City initiative has earned praise from global media outlets such as CNN. Since its port opened in 1883, followed much later by an international airport in 1992, Incheon has been laying a steady foundation to become an international city. In 2003, Incheon was designated as Korea's first free economic zone, drawing foreign investments worth $9.5 billion. Incheon has served as an important business hub in Northeast Asia by attracting 13 international organizations like the World Bank and GCF, as well as 75 global firms such as Boeing and BMW.
There are 147 cities with over 1 million residents within a 3-hour distance by flight from Incheon International Airport. With Incheon being part of the capital area, home to a population of 25 million people, companies will have wide access to high-quality human resources. We are creating a residential-friendly environment for foreigners, providing outstanding government services, and striving to become a mecca of education.
This German engineering company chose Incheon to serve as their beachhead in entering the broader Asian market. The firm manufactures protective enclosures for electric and electronic equipment. It moved into the Incheon Free Economic Zone in 2014 and received tax exemptions. Incheon's geographical advantages of being close to an airport and a seaport saves time and cost in terms of logistics and bolsters the city's competitiveness in the global market.
We have many customers in Korea, and we wanted to establish a strong and a permanent base in Korea, and Songdo IFES provided a very attractive proposal and attractive location to us. And I can say we have met that objective 100%.
The secret to Incheon's success in attracting investment by global companies is in its abundant infrastructure. In particular, creating a global education environment is solidifying Incheon's identity as an international city. This joint campus is home to renowned colleges including SUNY Korea, George Mason University, and the University of Utah. Global universities are offering their most outstanding programs in Incheon, dispatching professors to Korea and to running the same curriculums and research from their original campuses. With their help, Incheon is now focused on educating future leaders of the global era.
It's good for the international students here because they get to experience a culture that's different from their own in America, so they get more of a bigger perspective on what's happening in the world.
We're very excited about being in Seongil because of the fact that it was kind of created to be a smart city, a city of the future. This location is ideal. Not only are you close to the rest of the world, you're close to Seoul, which is one of the great cities of the world, 26 million people. We feel like Seongil is an excellent place for an English-speaking university.
The Global Startup Campus was newly created last month to encourage free exchanges between startup companies and students.
Our aim is to foster quality manpower for international organizations and companies. We hope our campus will be a prime destination in Northeast Asia for internationally renowned universities.
With its unique geographical advantages and outstanding infrastructure, Incheon continues to lure in foreign investors. Korea hopes this global city will lead the country into the era of the fourth industrial revolution.
And that wraps it up for this Thursday, but we'll be back tomorrow with the day's top economic and business stories, so don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.